the world, Huawei has either launched or is currently launching, depending on where you live, the new flagship for its Honor digital native brand, the Honor 8. This is rather smooth and premium. I've had a play. Has a 5.2-inch 1080p touchscreen and a dual 12-megapixel camera setup on the back, with f over 2.2 aperture, similar to that on the Huawei P9. The chipset inside is one notch further down the Kirin rung than the P9's with the Kirin 950, but you do get a fingerprint sensor, 4GB of RAM and 64GB of expandable storage. Well, expandable only if you don't need the dual SIM facility. A 3000 mAh seal battery and USB Type-C port charging round off the Honor 8, along with a 3.5mm headset jack. Go 3.5 for the win. Pricing is higher than we used to seeing for the Honor brand, £350, but it's commensurate with the premium materials used. The only fly in the Honor ointment is that the P9 is now the same price or thereabouts, and with higher specifications. So, go figure. It's a no-brainer, really. The top phone is going to be the Marshall London 2 with its monster speakers, Snapdragon 617 chipset, 3GB of RAM, and super 13-megapixel camera, plus every... Oops, I was dreaming again, miles away. It might happen, though. You never know. In the meantime, I find myself for the umpteenth time using as main phones devices which I can't recommend to anyone else. The original London, my main phone more often than not. Super grippy, super flexible, unbelievable audio, but not available at a sensible price and underpowered by 2016 standards. Gah! Then there's my Lumia 950 leather-backed, okay, with the Mozo replacement. Back, still the best phone camera in the world and superb display, yet with Windows 10 Mobile still only at the promising stage and still with bugs and issues even mid-2016. Microsoft, what are you doing? I'm a fan of the phones and OS, and even I can't really recommend them to friends and family. I'm also going to draw a veil over the Android champion Nexus line. I was a little underwhelmed by both of 2015's Nexus devices. They're good smartphones, but both flawed in different ways. And with 2016 Nexus devices now only weeks away, I think it's time for a Nexus reset all round. But what can I recommend? If a close friend or colleague walked up to me right now, what would I point him to? A lot does depend on budget, of course, but you do, on the whole, get what you pay for. At number 5, I'll start with a relatively budget option. I'd have gone for one of the Wiley Fox designs, but their 2016 range doesn't quite do it for me. And in any case, I firmly believe that most people will be wanting to watch at least some media these days. And I'm going to recommend something I reviewed back in Phone Show 284, the Alcatel Idol 4. Very good screen, solid build, excellent stereo speakers, decent internals, and a relatively stock version of Android. All you've got to allow for is half an hour deleting or disabling the various bloatware that Alcatel foolishly allowed on. Or you can pay £50 extra and get the BlackBerry version of the exact same handset without the bloatware, but with lots of BlackBerry professional stuff. Mind you, getting on for £300 for the DTEK 50, the BlackBerry version, you might be better off heading for my number 1 pick in a moment. Tease, tease, tease. At number 4, Samsung has been knocking it out of the park in 2016 so far, and they're impossible to ignore, but I'm not going to allow the company more than one slot in the Phone Show Top 5, which means that I'm going to cheat slightly and put the Galaxy Note 7 and Galaxy S7 in the number 4 slot together. But bear with me. Their internals are extremely similar, not least the rather good camera, so it really depends on whether you want a slightly larger phone with stylus functions for a whopping £700 or a more normal-sized smartphone with no stylus for £500. Why not the S7 Edge? Pretty though it is, most people will be happier paying less and having less issues with the curved screen. All of these devices are somewhat festooned by Samsung's UI tweaks and software. Still, it does slow down the user experience in the real world, but at least most of it does add value these days. Samsung's doing a good job in recent years in terms of OS updates, at least on its flagships. Why not higher up for these two Samsungs in my top 5? Because the 7 range, reviewed briefly in Phone Show 275, is too expensive, demonstrably, because control buttons are still the wrong way round, because that physical press-in home button still grates on me, and because there are question marks now over the Gorilla Glass 5 used on the Note 7. See the tech news for details. At number 3, it's true that the HTC 10 isn't a perfect 10, as the ad suggests. The boom sound speakers of the past are now just a meaty module in the 10's bottom edge, plus a trebly left channel from the front earpiece. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Mind you, if you leave aside the stereo effect,
For sat-nav, speakerphone calls and podcast listening, the new arrangement is just fine. The HTC 10 reviewed in Phone Show 279 knocks it out of the park in just about every other regard. It's beautifully built, the display is great, the internals supercharged, and the camera is nearly up with the Galaxy S7, which only leaves the price. Ignore HTC's price of £550 RRP. They've usually got a £100 offer on at one time or another, or just use a reseller online. So think of this as about £460, which still sounds pricey, but about right. At number 2, I've quite literally lost count of the number of normal home users and professionals who say they've had iPhones for the last 5 or 6 years because they just work. Now, as I said in Phone Show 269, iPhones just don't work for me, but that's because I'm weird. My family is totally in love with the device and OS. For someone who doesn't want to fiddle and customize, for someone who just wants an easy life, is happy for Apple to make the right decisions, for someone who's happy to fork out £620 without flinching, then it's hard to look past the Apple iPhone. Even though I'm very skeptical still over the 3D Touch, it's still worth going for the 6S model over the cheaper, older 6 because of the increased strength, the water resistance, not publicised, but it is there, and improved 12 megapixel camera. See my full review in Phone Show 263. But at number 1, this has probably been the hardest Phone Show top 5 ever to compile. There's no one standout from a technical and usability point of view anymore. However, if only for value for money, I have to give the OnePlus 3 the top slot, with top of the range components more or less across the board. Don't worry about the 1080p display, it's fine for most people at 5.5 inches, really, including future-proofing with 6GB of RAM, fingerprint sensor and an NFC. See my full review in Phone Show 283 for more. The OnePlus 3 is easily equivalent to the likes of the HTC 10 just mentioned, yet it's £309 all in. Wait, what? The UK's leaving Europe. Really? Darn. Okay, make that £329. Still great value though if you want a beautiful, future-proof, all-metal, robust smartphone. That's the maximum bang per buck.